Good afternoon. I'm Angelina Toole with this Franciscan Beat News Brief. At 16 years old, after hearing the heartbreaking story of a teenage coworker who had an abortion, Lucia Hunt was inspired to dive deeper into the fight for life. Lucia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the event that you held on Monday? What was it? What inspired it? What all went down?
Well, the event on Monday was what I call the SAFE conference, and SAFE stands for Stop Aborted Fetal Experiments. And so the SAFE conference was pretty much the first of multiple events that I hope to conduct, not only here on campus with our students, but also in other places. And so this conference took place at the University of Pittsburgh, and it was against their aborted fetal research. And so their aborted fetal research is very, very unethical and borderline illegal. And so this conference pretty much was an event where I had multiple acclaimed national speakers come in to speak about this, and I delivered a presentation as well on not only why it's important to be pro-life, but why it's important to be pro-life in all ethical situations against this unethical aborted fetal research.
Right, that's wonderful. For those like myself who might have wanted to go but were unable to, could you give a little recap of what exactly you spoke about?
So what I spoke about was the importance of being pro-life, and not only the importance of being pro-life, but also the fact that every single human has an indispensable dignity of life. And so I almost, in a way, gave sorts of a sermon, which ended up being not exactly what I planned, but before going up there, I said, God, you're in total control. This is your project. This is not mine. I surrender everything to you. And so the Lord really just spoke through me to not only educate people, but to also empower them with that education to take it out into the world.
Wonderful. Were there any other speakers that gave a different kind of education, maybe on the nuts and bolts of what these aborted fetal procedures are like, or why it is a violation?
Yes, so actually the director of bioethics here, Dr. Lee, he gave a presentation and he spoke all about bioethics. And then I had a lawyer from Texas and Washington, D.C. He flew in. He actually worked for the Health and Human Services, which is the branch of the government that gave this grant application to the University of Pittsburgh to be able to do these.
So the maple syruping process is extensive.
Ethics sector of the HHS, and he was deputy general attorney there. And so he flew in and he spoke on the legalities of this, why exactly our government is allowed to fund this type of research. And then the executive vice president of Students for Life of America organization, she also flew in and she spoke on fetal development, the different types of abortion, viability, and when infants feel pain. And then I also had a student researcher at Pitt, and she spoke about, from a student standpoint, from an aspiring scientist standpoint, why it's important to be pro-life and how you can do that in the field of science.
That's wonderful. Do you have any suggestions for resources for students to look if they want to understand more about these said topics?
Well, you can first of all look at my website, www.stopafe.com. You can also, to generally learn more about this, you can look more into the Students for Life of America organization. They have some information on this. You can also, if somebody really wants to, look at the NIH grant application, because inside of that application, although it's over 300 pages long, it has exactly all the information of what they're doing with this money. And they put it in flowery language, but if you look at their clinical trials, you can see photos of exactly what they're doing.
Interesting, thank you.
Of course.
And I find it quite ironic that it was called SAFE,
yes,
event, because it came to our knowledge that as things were unfolding, it was not as quite as peaceful or safe as one might have thought.
No, not at all, which is, it's not really that unfortunate though, because what ended up happening, for those of you who do not know, is that protesters that were students at the University of Pittsburgh rights, saying that abortion is healthcare, and they said, and I quote, "working women give them hell." And they had a big red sign. It is right to rebel. Working men seeking. It is right anything that's pro-life because they kept saying that we need abortions. Abortion is healthcare. And so it is very ironic because a lot of people experienced a lot of spiritual warfare. It was full spiritual warfare. There was a lot of people in the back that started to sing Salve Regina.
Oh my goodness.
And people that started to pray the rosary. But the reason I say that it was spiritual warfare is because they were yelling and very, very demonic voices screaming and screaming. And they marched up there. They ripped my speech in half. They ripped my microphone off of me. They stole all of my programs. They really just caused havoc and wreaked chaos at the entire event. And they were pushing me around. They were pushing somebody who got up on stage with me around. And so what ended up happening is the only way I was able to get them to leave was finally by grabbing the microphone off of the stage, although they pushed me away from it, and I started to say the Hail Mary. And then I just started to say the St. Michael prayer. And the St. Michael prayer, I started off first still with a powerful voice, but I said it again for the second time. And they suddenly and very strangely walked out in a single file line out of the conference the minute I began saying the St. Michael prayer. And it's honestly ingrained in my head.
Chills.
Yes, you really do, because I have a friend who has the gift of spiritual sight, and she told me that she saw the devil in the corner of the room. She saw demons on these girls, and I was able to feel it very, very strongly, but I've never felt more protected despite it. I never felt more protected because I had a miraculous medal on, I had a rosary on, I had a blessed crucifix on, but I also knew that that was exactly what God wanted to happen, because that gives me so much publicity. It really does, because I'm going to send it to EWTN, the videos of people screaming, and my hope is that people share this video because you can quite literally hear the power of God through me. Because like I said, I told the Lord, this is his project. None of it is mine. And so God worked through me. None of it was my leadership abilities, but it was all God. And so after all of that happened, people really began to understand that the pro-life movement and being pro-life in general is a spiritual battle. It's not easy at all. And you need courage. You need a lot of courage to be pro-life.
It's hard enough, I think, in a smaller sense, but when you're on that big of a scale.
Yes, there's about 200 people there at the conference, which I think is a pretty good number. And when those people left, I ended the prayer with amen and goodbye. And the last person out, the door slammed shut, and we were back in the room. And I got up on stage and I said, if you do not believe the devil is real, then you need to reflect back on what happened. Because I'm able to smile about it now, but it was very, very scary for a lot of people, because I deal with spiritual warfare very often, but a lot of kids don't. And there's a lot of kids there, even at the University of Pittsburgh students, they have just never dealt with that or never seen it on that scale. And I got notified that the president of Students for Life there told me that they ended up starting a rosary group. A guy who was there started a rosary group in response to it, because it was so obviously spiritual warfare.
I like how you say that you can smile about it now, because that is also just a testament to your faith, and you are seeing the glass half full. You are seeing all of the good that the Lord brought out from that true battle.
He did.
Which is why St. Michael was definitely there.
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely.
I'm glad that those other students caught wind of it too.
Yes.
It shows that you're spreading the message very well for groups that you want to attract to be there, and then for it to be put to the test.
I agree.
Yeah, and what drew you in actively to be active in the pro-life movement itself?
Well, you know, I grew up like many other people at Franciscan as a Catholic, very strong in my faith, but I knew the pro-life movement was real, but I never really got propelled into it until I just turned 16. I was a lifeguard. I lived in Texas, and another 16-year-old told me that she had an abortion. And it really just hit me, wow, abortions don't just happen to 30, 40-year-old women. They also happen to 14, 15, 16-year-old girls. And I saw the pain that she went through after the abortion.
Wow.
But she brushed it off and she said, it doesn't matter, Lucia, it's just a clump of cells. It doesn't matter. but I saw the pain that she went through. She had a lot of health issues after that. And she also had a lot of emotional pain. And the abortion did not empower her in the slightest. Not only did she have a lot of family problems, but now she had this physical and emotional and spiritual trauma to add on to that, and it didn't help her. And I saw that firsthand, and I said to myself, wow, this really hurts women.
So for people who haven't seen that firsthand, how would you inspire them to kind of light the fire in their souls to not just be pro-life, but to be pro-life?
I like the way you say that. I would say most definitely to research. Research, because if you actually look into what happens during an abortion, you can see not only A, this is a live baby, but B, oh my gosh, this is ripping the child apart, because that's what happens in an abortion. You have 6 different types of abortion, and there's 3 subtypes, so technically 9 different types of abortion. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't actually critically think and research what goes on in an abortion. And it's very gruesome, very brutal, and so I would say that alone is enough to really light the fire within you, because if you are just an ethical human with a heart, you can see that this is a real human being whose limbs are being torn out of their body, whose body is being burned alive within a mom. That should be enough. And if that's not enough, then prayer. The power of prayer. Pray to the Lord to ask him, please make me pro-life. Make me so fully pro-life that I'd be willing to die for it.
Wow.
At least that's what I do.
Wonderful. Even if it is not a martyr's death that we are used to, it is
Yes.
a modern day martyr's death. Which
Most
is
definitely.
wonderful.
Most definitely.
And now that this event is over, what's next?
Well, I'm in a fellowship program with Students for Life of America, and this program allows me to conduct a project on my campus that makes it more pro-life. But I figured, Franciscan's already one of the most pro-life schools out there. They actually soon came out with, though, a national project that you can apply to that affects the world on a national basis, and it's a 1.5 years long. And so you apply to this program, you're picked as a national semifinalist, and then you work with the actual organization of Students for Life, and if you win, you get $30,000 to actually
Oh my goodness.
make an entrepreneurial project, and it's a self-starting business basically. And so I was picked as a national semifinalist, one of the top 5. Thank you. I'm very, very thankful for it, but it's definitely, I would say, a cross of sorts to bear, because it's very hard, like I said, to be pro-life. It's very difficult, and then to add on a project with schoolwork alone is very stressful, especially at Franciscan University. And so I'm focusing on this project, but I also teach apologetics here at the university, and I love teaching apologetics. I teach with my friend Pablo Williams, and we do it about twice a month, every Monday, and we talk about different hot topics within the pro-life movement. So we covered fetal development, we've covered the different types of abortion most recently, and so we really explain to the students here what happens, how you can defend being pro-life specifically against this claim, against the pro-life movement. And so I hope to focus on this more and to make this into a more school-wide event. I want to get it in the Gentile Gallery. I'd like to get it more frequently. I want to put these on more often now that I have time to. And I really want the students at Franciscan to know being pro-life is important. I'm not the only person who cares about this. And this is how I defend it. Because like I said, it's a spiritual battle. And the more often I can talk about what happened at the conference, the more people are going to come to realize, wow, that was the devil. And this is not a fight against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, like the Bible says. And so that's the goal right now.
Well, I'm so glad. Lucia, does the name mean light? Or
Yes, in Latin.
I'm glad that you can be that light in this very dark spiritual battle.
Thank you.
And then just to close out with a final question, if somebody has had an abortion or has friends or family that they have seen been hurt, where do you suggest that they turn?
I would say that there are many, many resources out there that are assistant to women. So the first one locally would probably be AIM Women's Clinic down the street. They are more than happy to open their arms up to you. And there's also another place locally, I forget the name of it, but that is for women that have gone through abortions. Specifically, Rachel's Vineyard is another one to look into, and they give retreats for women who've gone through this. And so I would say those are physical resources that women can look to. There's a lot of organizations out there ready and willing to help women, to give them care. But I would also say turning to the Lord completely and just praying for somebody to help you through this, because dealing with emotional pain on your own is very hard. And having somebody there to welcome you into their arms and to assist you. I mean, I always look to the poem Footprints in the Sand, of the Lord carrying somebody through their hardest moments in life, not allowing them to walk alone. And if you don't know that story, please look it up. It's a beautiful poem. And so I always turn to that, and that really illustrates how much God cares as a father. And so I would say look into that, look into those clinics, pray. And then for those that are watching women go through that, compassion and love and loving like Jesus loves is really the only answer, because that is what will heal a woman.
Wonderful. It is truly a message of hope. And we typically have the guest leave with a little tagline. They say, stay blank, Steubenville. Some people say, stay hydrated. Someone said, stay holy. So you can give your message to Steubenville.
Steubenville, I think I'd like to say, I'm trying to think of like the different tense of this word. Stay courageous, Steubenville. Stay courageous, because the fight for life is not a fight for those that have a light heart. It is the fight for those that are willing to have fortitude and willing to be courageous. So stay strong, stay hopeful, and stay courageous.
Thank you very much. That's all your news for today. Have a nice evening.